for example, if you're not on, got low energy, you've had a bad mental day, you're not up for it, streaming, it feels more like a chore than something you want to do for fun. YouTube, if you're not feeling up for it, it doesn't really change anything. Like, yeah, okay, you can take the night off and then tackle it tomorrow, which is what I've started doing this year. I set aside 2 nights a week, and those 2 nights I do content creation, I batch create for short form video platforms. Arguably, it's not how many followers or subscribers you have, it's your engagement or reach, because you can have 1,000 followers and 1% engagement, who cares? But if you have 100 followers and 10% engagement, that's significantly more already. And I dare say your demographics. Your demographics can be the age, like the target audience that you have. So is it 50% male? Is it 45% female, etc.? And where are your viewers from? Are they from North America, Europe, your local country? Like, I personally feel like they're the big key things.
Welcome everybody to the Creator Dashboard. I'm the jury and I'm here with Logan, and we're going to be talking about how to become a better content creator. How are you doing today, Logan?
I'm doing very, very well. I don't know if you've brought the right person on to become a better content creator, but we'll give it a crack. They say fake it till you make it, and I've got 4.5 years under my belt, still going strong.
Well, that's great. The reason why we brought Logan here today is Logan does a lot of work with brands and has represented various different brands, done lots of different things. And so I think there's a lot of information there that Logan can share. So Logan, tell us a little bit about yourself, and I guess in a nutshell, what kind of content do you produce and where are you and what do you mainly do?
Yeah, sounds good. So hi, hey, and g'day. My name is Logan. You can find me at LH464D on pretty much any platform. I predominantly stream on Twitch, though. That mentality is changing of late. I stream a lot of World of Warcraft, League of Legends, a bunch of variety, and I create some content for Wizards of the Coast for Magic the Gathering. So if you like cardboard TCGs or games in general by Blizzard or Riot, I stream that kind of stuff. A little bit about me. I've been streaming, as I said, for around 4.5 years. I'm 37 years old. The reason I say that is so that you know that you can be an older kind of person, not that 37 is that old, and still stream or create content. And I am based in Melbourne, and I've been gaming my entire life. Since I could touch a computer, I have played games.
Fantastic. So you've been doing it for a long time. How has how has it changed since you started?
Yeah, so I started during COVID, as we were discussing in the preamble.
So I just need to sorry. You say you've been doing it for 5 years, and then you say COVID, and it feels like COVID was just yesterday. Still, it was 5 years ago.
Yeah, so it was August 2020 is when I first started.
Holy crap! Sorry, that was just like it blew my that.
Yeah,
that's the first time it's clicked for me. That's been 5 years since COVID.
Well, it's been
not,
2.5, 3 years since the end of COVID, but
I guess
5 years since it kicked off.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. Sorry, that kind of shook me a little bit.
we have those moments. I was watching a TikTok today where someone was saying, "Oh, these games are retro," and retro is defined as 10 plus years old, and Modern Warfare 2 and Minecraft and things like that. And it's like, what? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, calling Minecraft retro is actually a bit crazy.
Exactly.
Anyway, sorry. Let's go back to that. How everything's changed since when you first started.
Wow. Yeah. So having nearly been doing this for 5 years now, the macro level Twitch streaming landscape has changed significantly. And when I say macro level, I mean the overall landscape, being the viewership has plummeted, the amount of creators on the platform has plummeted. Since COVID peak times, that's when there was tens of millions of viewers and millions of content creators. Now, I don't know the objective stats right now, but I do know that it has decreased significantly, which means the creators that are left on Twitch, the streaming platform, are fighting, for lack of a better metaphor, for scraps, basically. There's a lot more of us and a lot less viewers. That ratio has decreased significantly.
Yeah.
So I personally feel that if you are starting now, it's much harder than it was during COVID.
Yeah.
Because you need to fight that much harder for the audience. But the talented individuals who put in the time, effort, and energy and the research at the start, I feel like they will have plenty of opportunity to shine in that field as well.
Do you think Twitch is still where it's at?
From a streaming perspective, Twitch is still the best platform, but that's like picking the lesser of two evils.
Sorry, let me reframe that question to: is streaming where it's at?
Uh, that's a matter of perspective down to the individual. It depends on what you
Mm,
want to achieve.
mm,
Personally, if I could start it again, it would be all in on YouTube. The reason I say YouTube over Twitch, obviously, YouTube has a streaming element to it, but it's not the best for streaming. But it's very, very easy to take that streaming content and turn it into YouTube long form or short form,
yeah.
which is where YouTube thrives and excels and is what it's known for. And quite frankly, as much as you need to work hard and put in the time, effort, energy, and hours and create quality content on YouTube, it does have a lot more explosive potential
Mm,
than Twitch. That's not to say you are guaranteed, but it has more eyes on it more often
yeah.
than Twitch does.
Well, I guess to put it into perspective, like YouTube has an algorithm that serves content up based on someone's personal interests. And
Yep.
then it's just like any kind of content that is lives on the internet is that it lives on the internet. So once it's posted, it's published, anyone can see it at any time and it's kind of accessible at any point. You mentioned before we went live and before we did the intro, with live streaming, and I think even oh my god, Fizzy said the exact same thing. You only grow on Twitch when you're live on Twitch.
Yeah.
And that's I like, although that's not necessarily the case, but that's when you have the most growth. Is that you're
Mm.
only really gonna make any progress when you're live on Twitch. So Twitch is very like it's just on demand stuff. So if you're not capitalizing on YouTube content, then yeah,
Exactly. Like if you're so for example, if you're not on, and by on I mean you've got low energy, you've had a bad mental day, you're
mm,
not up for it. Streaming, it feels more like a chore
yeah,
than something you want to do for fun.
yeah.
Whereas YouTube, if you're not feeling up for it, it doesn't really change anything. Like, yeah, okay, you can take the night off and then tackle it tomorrow.
Or you
But
can like
like,
schedule one day of the week to like batch all your content. Make sure you've had a
which
good night's sleep
is
before, and then you're done.
exactly, which is what I've started doing this year. I set aside 2 nights a week. It used to be four for Twitch, and now it's two for Twitch and two for content creation. And those
Mm,
2 nights I do content creation, I batch create for short form video platforms.
yeah, great.
Yeah.
Yep. That's where they do it. And streaming all the time does have that compounding effect where if you're live all the time, like the first couple nights, you're like, oh, this is great. I can do this forever. And it's not until like a couple weeks later that you're going, this is a slog.
Well, you think about it, and I don't think people realize when they first get started, it's the honeymoon phase, and
Mm,
people love streaming at the start. But after nearly 5 years, I can tell you that it becomes to feel like a second job.
yeah.
And when you work a full time day job and then you do I used to stream 40 hours a week as well,
Mm,
it becomes exhausting and something that you don't look forward to doing.
yeah. So as a streamer, what's something that you can do to get around that?
Um, Quite frankly, it's understanding what you hope to achieve. For me, I saw streaming as a social outlet during COVID. I wanted to connect with people, and that was a really good way to connect. And that's still the core of why I still stream. Like, yeah, I could stop streaming tomorrow and just do 4 days a week of content creation, but that's not what I want to get out of it. I do
Mm,
want that connection.
yep.
Without Twitch, I wouldn't have gone to America 2 times. I wouldn't have made all the friends that I've made around the world. I wouldn't have seen them when I went to Europe last year. Like, it's the social connection side of streaming that I really, really love. And that's
Mm,
probably why I'm going to keep on streaming.
yep.
Even if my numbers don't go up, even if I'm not a Twitch partner in another 5 years, it's that social connection.
Yeah, I mean that's the important thing is like really working out what your goals are while you're doing it. That would probably help you prevent you from really burning out. Because I guess if you're chasing an impossible goal or a goal that's makes it feel like you're not getting anywhere, then
Yeah.
as long as you're doing it for the right reasons, then you can stay a bit happier for longer.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Like I can weather the storm better because my mentality is already in a place of, well, that doesn't matter. that much in the scheme
Mm.
of things, you know.
Yep. So you mentioned just before how you've gotten some opportunities from streaming. So let's go into that a little bit more.
Certainly.
So how when you first started, like,
Yep.
how long into it did you start having these opportunities arise, and what did you really do to start getting these opportunities with brands?
Yeah, wow, that's a great question.
I'm good at those.
So, damn, why am I on this again? um, First opportunity. You know what? I think my first ever opportunity was Blizzard.
Mhm.
So I built my stream on the back of World of Warcraft.
Yep.
The first 2 years, I did nothing but play World of Warcraft. And then I took a year off for reasons, and where I played Final Fantasy 14, and then I came back, and I still play World of Warcraft every single week, and I'm still working with Blizzard. But Blizzard was my first ever opportunity. And here's how I did it, right? They didn't
Mhm.
come to me. They didn't know I existed, I don't think, as near as I can tell. But when you log in on your EU or AU BattleNet launches, you will see content creators' faces on the slide reel, right? Depending on the game you're playing, that's the BattleNet launcher. Content creators get put or featured on the launcher. And I saw this and I'm like, how do I do this? So I reached out to Blizzard directly and I said, hey, I'm not asking to be put on that launcher. I'm asking, what can I do to get a look in? What do you need me to do, or where do I need to get to for you to even consider to put me on the launcher?
Yep.
And they really loved that approach. They saw that I was willing to work with them, give them value for the value that they were going to give me. It was a reciprocal relationship.
Yep. I love that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's not, a lot of the time it's not about what they can do for you, it's what you can do for them.
Yep.
And a lot of strength when it comes to being a content creator, a streamer specifically, is your community, because your community is already interested in Blizzard if you're a Blizzard streamer, right?
Yep.
And it's just another connection. It's another way Blizzard can connect with your community as well. But yeah, I approached them. It was about 2023, and I've been on the launcher ever since. That's 2+ years.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
So throughout that time, who else have you worked with?
Oh my goodness. Okay, I'll do a quick hit list. Blizzard, Square Enix, Red Bull, Wizards of the Coast, Sugoi for Arcane. Did I say Riot? Riot, I've worked with Riot a couple of times. PAX as well, as you mentioned, I've hosted for PAX. I've used to work for directly Melbourne Fortress, but I've also done creator events and worked at Melbourne Fortress. I'm sure there's someone missing. I do apologize. Oh, I'm a ROG partner as well. I've got a shrine to ROG up here. Bethesda with Starfield and Indiana Jones, which was fantastic. By the way, I was so surprised by that game. It was so good. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think I've named them all. Asus, ROG. Yeah. It's as many as I can remember at the top of my head.
That's great. So, how does a creator kind of decides who they should approach?
Okay. When you approach a brand or an organization, it's one that you should already genuinely like, be familiar with, or want to work with, right? So, for example, if you don't work with anyone, if you don't know if you like anyone, do your research. It can be as simple as, does that brand have the thing that I want in the color I like? Great, then I'm going to research that brand and I'm going to hopefully work with that brand. Or like me with ROG, I've had ROG components in my computers for years before I ever started working with them. So I knew that their brand was reliable and good quality. And so when I reached out to them, or they reached out to me, and we can get into that later, I already knew that was a brand I wanted to work with. Red Bull, big fan of Red Bull generally. They're not a drinks brand, they're a marketing brand. I love what they do, like Felix Baumgartner from the Stratosphere and all the extreme sports stuff, Formula One. So I knew I wanted to work with them, and I've had the fortune of working with them 3 or 4 times now. And PAX is obviously a convention. If you're a nerd at all in Australia, or the world actually, because PAX is in
Worldwide,
America and Australia, and I don't know if they do a Europe one. Maybe they do. So I knew I wanted to work for do some hand-in-hand work with them as well. So it's basically identify your passions, brands that align with your passions, and get started from there.
Yep. And then, so what's the next step? So you've identified
Yep.
a brand. So like for ROG, for example, ROG
Yep.
or PAX. How do you build yourself up? What do you need to do to take that to the next step to actually approach them?
Yeah, okay. So there's several steps to approaching a brand, but I'll try and take it from the process at the start. You've identified ROG, right? You want to work with ROG. Put together a media kit. A media kit will help. It does not matter what size you are. It doesn't matter what platforms you're on. Put together a media kit.
Good idea.
It's
I still haven't done one.
put together a media kit. A media kit is essentially a content creator resume. It's not even your resume. It's your cover letter. It's a quick snapshot of all your key metrics across what platforms that matter to you, and you just give it to them and say, "Hey, this is the numbers behind why we should work together." And then you email them or message them. And part of that, you find the brand you like, ROG, you find the community managers, the social managers, stuff like that, and you follow them on social media platforms. LinkedIn is amazing.
Yeah, I've learned that. Yeah.
Amazing. Which it feels so out of place, right? Because we're content creators, and generally as content creators, we don't view ourselves as professionals.
Yep.
But we're trying to work in a professional space by connecting with brands. They are professionals.
Yeah.
So we need to be in the
Their
places.
bosses, they're all the marketing guys sitting in LinkedIn. And so they need to,
Yep.
they've got to connect with both.
Yep. They're on LinkedIn, so you need to be on LinkedIn, right? And then you follow them. You start interacting with them. You just have natural, organic conversations with them, right? Like they post. One of my favorite people that I'm connected with, and I'm not going to name them because I haven't sought consent in advance of this. They post sunrise photos all the time, and I genuinely love them, and so I'll comment like every other day. I'm like, that is a stunning sunrise. Like, where did you take that from? What camera did you take? So
Yep.
I can tell my wife, like genuine connection and interest. But over time, a lot of the time, these connections will begin to post opportunities or occasionally post opportunities on their platforms or on their brand platforms. And because you're already dialed in, you're already familiar, you'll be able to jump on that platform, send them your media kit and say, hey, I'd love a shot at this. What can we do?
Yep.
And that's how you get your foot in the door. And that piece of advice brought to you by Haughty Chicken. Yeah, genuinely. When I was like, how do you do it? She's like, well, I follow them all on these platforms. And now that's what I advocate for as well, because that's worked for me and it's worked for her and so many others.
What's the most important part of a media kit? Like, what information really should be on there?
Oh,
We probably don't need to go into too much detail because I know it can get complicated. But what is it that you think that is like the important thing? Is it your subscribers? Is it the followers, or is it the your views?
So arguably, it's not how many followers or subscribers you have. It's your engagement or reach, depending on the platform which cares about those, engagement or reach. Because you can have 1,000 followers and 1% engagement. Who cares?
Who cares? Yeah.
But if you have 100 followers and 10% engagement, that's significantly more already.
Yeah.
So engagement and reach, that matters a lot. And I dare say your demographics. So your demographics can be the age, like the target audience that you have. So is it 50% male? Is it 45% female, etc.? And where are your viewers from? Are they from North America, Europe, your local country? Like, I personally feel like they're the big key things.
Yeah. So interesting you say that. So like the demographics is something that I've been thinking about with my media kit that I'm putting together. Have been putting together for a year now and haven't published.
I'll send you mine.
But so interesting thing about people who are on YouTube, and this is something I've kind of recently thought about. So I'm primarily YouTube. I have been on Twitch, and I talk to other YouTubers, and they seem to think they don't get as much opportunity in Australia with Australian brands. And I think it comes down to the audience, because YouTubers, their audience are usually the smallest percentage Australian, whereas Twitch streamers, because they stream at Australian time zones, their audience is almost 100% Australian. So almost 100%. I wouldn't say maybe, but like the majority would be Australian just because of time zones. You don't reckon?
No, mate.
No?
No chance. So my streaming breakdown, I before this year where I switched to 2 night streaming, I streamed 4 days a week, every week for 4 years, right? I hit what was it? It was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and nights and Saturdays, right? So I would breach that time zone difference.
Okay. Yep.
And I can tell you, after 4 years of running those numbers, my audience was still 60% plus North America,
Yeah. Right.
and Australia was around 30 to 35%.
Okay. It's still pretty high because
It's very high.
my audience is 3% Australian.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. 50% US, like 20% UK. And it could be the game I'm playing. I play Baldur's Gate primarily. But I still think like primarily on like if I was to go to an Australian brand who have Australian KPIs, they're trying to grow a brand in Australia and say, I can serve your content to 3% of my 4,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound as good. And I think the Twitch streamers have a little bit of an advantage there because they've got a more engaged Australian audience with a smaller pool. I'm not sure. I don't know what your thoughts are on that. You've already debunked a bit of my theory there.
Only a bit, but I still generally agree that streamers have a higher percentage of local audience. Because a lot of the time they're marketing locally, they're streaming locally, like ours. They're like a lot of streamers. What they'll do is they'll self promote in a lot of Discords, and I'm not saying the cringe. I'm live, follow me, and that's it. And then they don't exist in that Discord. Other than that, but
yeah,
like,
I'm glad those things don't exist anymore.
Yeah. Twitch knows about those too, by the way. And if you make partner, and they know they literally decline you for that stuff. But if you're like doing the genuine organic, like existing in a community, and then you're like, oh, hey, by the way, now I'm live. Generally that's in like time zoned places. It's in similar regions, which strengthens the appeal of your local audience. Whereas YouTube, again, by virtue of it existing 24/7, has reach beyond your control, if that makes sense, which is generally also a good thing.
Yeah, I guess when you put it that way, it doesn't sound like a good thing, but it's pretty much it's a good thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I get most of my views at overnight, 3 o'clock in the morning is like peak viewing time.
And if you ever Google it, you'll see that that's like prime time American.
Yeah, I think that's the Eastern Coast. So
yeah.
I mean, I guess that's the thing you got to weigh up to. There's advantages and disadvantages in both, but if you can manage to do both, then doing well.
Exactly.
Okay, so you've sent your media kit to a brand, and they've engaged with you to work with you.
Yep.
So, what are the things you should be looking out for when you're actually doing that deal with the brand?
Don't be taken advantage of. And I know that's easier said than done. Don't be scared of taking the first 1 or 2 gigs for free. And I know that's a hot take. A lot of people will be like, you got to know your value, all that sort of stuff. And I agree.
Well, you can't know your value until you know your value, right?
Yeah, exactly. I generally agree. I would fine tune it and say, don't do too much work for free.
Yeah.
But to your point, we've reached out. We've said, hey, let's work together. What should we be on the lookout for? Deliverables. Deliverables are key. This sets expectations between you and the brand you're working with. Brands will generally say, hey, we want to pay you this much, and or we want to give you this product, and this is what we want in return. Go over that with a fine-tooth comb. Make sure it's not overwhelming. Make sure you can meet those deliverables before signing off on any of those documents. Generally they're hunky-dory. I'm really fortunate, in my opinion, working with ROG. They have crystal clear deliverables, and they're very, very flexible on things such as your time frame. I currently have a deliverable that they wanted done in March. I said I was too busy, and they said April is fine. So I'll be working on that a little later.
Wow. Okay.
Pay close attention to the T's and C's. Perpetuity. In perpetuity is 2 words that you need to pay attention to. You need to be concerned if they say they own or possess or can benefit from you and your content in perpetuity.
Okay. So what does that mean?
So it means that your contract will have a certain time frame. For example, 1st of April to the 1st of May. That's your contract. But if they own, possess, have rights to use in perpetuity, that exceeds that time frame. It means it can carry on for as long as they want, as long as that brand exists.
Are we talking about that particular piece of content?
Yes, generally it will be defined into that piece of content. And I'm not a lawyer, so please check with your lawyer. But this is my experience and this is my understanding of it. Um, they basically own that piece of content forever and ever,
Yep.
and they can use it outside of that contract without having to ever pay you again for it, even though it is you and the content you created for them.
Right. Okay. So is that something? So you say to keep an eye out for that. Is that
Yep.
something you want to avoid, or is it something that you just want to be mindful of and how they use it?
Be very aware of it and how it is used. Don't be scared to cross out in perpetuity and go back to them. Don't be scared to have that negotiation and say, "Hey, look,
Yep.
I'm happy for my content to be used in this inside this window," or let's negotiate and maybe it's a 3-month window to outside the contract. That's
Mm.
fine, but in perpetuity is rarely ever good for the creator or favorable for the creator.
Yeah. Okay. So this is like, for example, like I'm imagining that they have a TikTok account. You generate the content for them. You submit the content, and they post it on their behalf, and it will stay on their platform for X amount of time.
Mm.
So does that mean they remove the content after that period, or is it just kind of they don't advertise it anymore?
Well, so generally, if you're doing non-perpetual content, it's advertised. So when
Mm.
you create a short piece of content, you can create an ad cycle for it, and it goes up for that month, and then it comes down at the end of that month, unless you pay to bring it back up, right? Generally,
Yep.
that's non-perpetual content. Um, I've lost track.
Perpetual content
Yeah, perpetual content, non-perpetual content.
on their Twitter, TikTok.
Yeah, so it won't be posted as like a permanent item, if that makes sense.
Yep.
If you don't agree to in perpetuity.
Yep.
Um,
So it'll only be used for like an ad campaign.
yeah, essentially. So there's a recent example though where in perpetuity can be a good thing. Cozy Magic Club, shout out Cozy Magic Club, Magic the Gathering content creators. They recently did a sponsored piece for Taki Dragonstorm, and their YouTube thumbnail is used on the Magic the Gathering Facebook page with 1.8 million followers.
Yep.
And that's going to stay there forever, as I
Mm.
understand it, because it's celebrating their achievement, it's celebrating their success. And I don't understand the terms of that agreement. I don't understand that sponsorship. So, from an outsider perspective, I'm saying this benefits them both to be there permanently, right? It's Magic the Gathering celebrating its content creators who are creating Magic the Gathering content. So, they kind of work hand in hand there quite nicely.
Yep. So
So, that could
that's
be,
a good example of perpetual content. That's great.
yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. But I guess if it's a brand has taken your content and they're just using it indefinitely forever, and you've only been paid for like the initial kind of
Yeah.
bit without any extended royalties,
Yeah.
I guess that's where it can be a little bit tricky.
One of the smartest things George Lucas ever did is when he did Star Wars. In case you want to know George Lucas, Star Wars. One of the deals
What?
I
Who?
know. One of the deals he signed was forever and a day. Even if he sells Star Wars, which as we all know he did, he still gets a cut of the royalties of every movie and every product sale. Like it was in the contract, and that's in perpetuity, and that works in his favor.
Yep.
That he can retire and never have to earn a dollar ever again, and he will live off that for the rest of his life. That's a good example.
Very good example. Okay. That's good. So something to keep an eye out for creators.
Yep.
All right. And then you've delivered on the content. What do you
Mm.
do? What do you do then?
Yeah. So obviously, that's something you look out for. Sorry, I say obviously. That's something you look out for up front. Is reporting. I've achieved my deliverables. I've ticked that box. What now? A lot of the times brands will want you to report. So a report can be as simple as a screenshot of my stream numbers for the day, right? I've agreed
Yep.
to do a stream, showcase a product, here's my stream numbers. Sometimes it can be as detailed as send me every single post that you've made on every single platform that you've made and collate that into a report for me, etc. I can't say I've had that one, but I have spoken to people who have had similar. So it depends on what you agree to up front. What
Yeah.
you're doing now, the deliverables have been delivered upon.
Yep.
Me personally, as an example, I'm an LCP approved co-streamer, which means I have the rights to stream Riot's League of Legends APAC region tier 1 tournament. Now, I agree to them that I'll behave in a certain way, and I won't like besmirch and smear and ruin their reputation and all that sort of stuff. Fairly standard stuff. But what I don't agree to is sending reports. I
Yep.
don't agree to stream every single game, all that kind of stuff. But splits happen, so 1/3 per year. And at the end of each split, I'll reach out to them and say, this is everything I've done for the LCP as a co-streamer, right? Every co-stream I've done, how long I co-streamed, every extra bit of co-streaming. So that's talking to other creators and having them on co-streams. That's every post on social media. I even host watch parties, which is outside my obligations as an LCP co-streamer, because I'm passionate about League of Legends. Like I want to do it, but I'm
Yeah.
still going to tell them that I've done all of this.
Yeah.
So that they can see your value. They can see your value
and keep wanting to work with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, that's fair. Okay. So how can a creator kind of, I guess, overall position themselves better that they can get work with brands?
How can a creator best position himself to work with brands? Okay, act like you're already working with the brand.
Okay.
And when I say that, right, let's pretend for a moment I'm not a ROG partner. And I genuinely, no, let's use Razer as an example, right? I'm a content creator. I've got my kit decked out in Elgato peripherals, and I love Razer PC peripherals, right? You may not already work with those brands, but you're already showing a passion for those brands by decking your gear out in their equipment, right?
Yep.
So why not take your phone, which you doubtlessly have, and take some nice photos of that equipment? Product photography is one of the quickest, easiest, and most basic ways to get a brand to see you, to pay attention to the content that you're producing, right? Because you're showing a passion, you're showing time, energy, and effort by producing better quality than standard image-based content, and you're posting it out there. You can also then leverage those posts to tagging them to get that extra attention. And then you begin to practice and develop your skills. And because, again, you're already in tune with all the community and social media managers, you'll see the opportunities come up. You already have a portfolio that you can then go to them and say, hey, Media Kit, hey, portfolio, proven passion, proven results, let's work together.
Right.
You don't need to be with the brand to already work with the brand, if that makes sense.
I like that. Well, that's really good. Well, I think that's often overlooked. I think a lot of people have their brand loyalties without even thinking about it, and just taking photos of it. Like I even think a good strategy for me is just to take a photo of my daily Red Bull can and just send it to Red Bull on Twitter.
So,
no,
for anyone looking,
maybe not, because I don't drink that much Red Bull.
Pro tip, all right. So, I love Red Bull, and I knew I always wanted to work with Red Bull. So I went to LinkedIn. Pro tip: go to LinkedIn, and I started looking up who worked at Red Bull where, and I stumbled upon the marketing manager at Red Bull Global, and they had they had published a peer-reviewed paper on Red Bull marketing. And that's what it was. And I was reading this document and it was fascinating. But my singular key takeaway was that Red Bull wants organic marketing, not in your face, not intentional, but just have it there day to day. So right now I've got a Red Bull box in the background. Every single stream, every single day. I don't make a thing of it. It's just there. I don't make a thing of when I have my Red Bull cans on my streams. I'm just drinking them. And in my day-to-day life, I'll have a Red Bull here and there. And the photo, the Red Bull will be sort of off the back and side. It's just subtle. It's quietly there, but it's there. That's their kind of marketing for their product.
Well, they're all about how they help or just being a part of people's lives, especially in the extreme sports. Like the only active brand like marketing campaigns that you probably see from them, because their whole strategy is a big campaign, but like is the Red Bull gives you wings ads that you used to see on TV. And I don't even think I haven't seen one of them for a while, but that was kind of their active marketing. But now it's all very passive. Like it's all basically just part of their extreme sports. So it's a good I like that. It's a good report on it. Good summary.
Yeah, they're basically going the way of luxury car brands. So if you think about it, you'll never see an ad for Ferrari, Lamborghini, Bentley on TV. And I think one of the CEOs famously said, I think it was the Ferrari CEO famously said, Why would we put ads on our TV? Our target audience isn't there.
Mm-hmm.
And I generally think that Red Bull is like reaching that point, or has already reached that point, where it's like, why would we put ads on TV? They're not sitting down on a couch. They're out there doing extreme stuff.
That's right. Yep. Yeah, we need to be at the events. That's why you see them at PAXs and
Formula One.
All these events, because they're giving away the free Red Bull. Yep. It's not about the product anymore. It's about the whole experience. It's about making the thrills and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. You think Red Bull, you associate it with extreme sport, plain and simple.
Yeah.
It's a very good tactic that they do. They go to these events and hand these cans out for free. I went to Tomorrowland in Europe last year, and they had, and the reason I'm bringing this up is they had a very similar thing. They had Snickers girls. Basically, they were walking around dressed up in the colors of Snickers, and they had these coolant fridges wrapped around them, chockers with Snicker ice creams. Yeah, like fridges, like that's cool. Wrapped around them, just harnessed up. And they're walking around, and anyone and everyone could just grab free ice cream Snickers. And mate, we came back, bought boxes of them. They were delicious.
I guess it worked.
It did.
Oh, that's great. So how do you find all this brand work and working with brands and all this kind of stuff? How do you find it helps or affects your everyday content?
My everyday content? Well, that's interesting. It depends on the work that you're doing with the brand and or org. Okay. So some of the negative impacts is that you agree to do work with these brands and orgs. And I say negative impact, it's scale, it's balances.
Balancing it, yeah.
You need to cut a stream day because you're busy attending an event or hosting an event or creating content around an event, whatever you want to do. So that could be perceived as a negative, but I personally don't see it as that, because all of this work back here is got me here, and this is what I want to be doing,
Yeah.
What else? At the stage that I'm at, so at first it will start sporadically. So you won't get consistent work. But if you put a lot of time, energy, and effort, and I keep saying that phrase, but there are multiple factors to this. You put time, energy, and effort into each opportunity you get, more opportunities will follow. If there's, I should have saved this for the end, but I'm saying it right now. If there's one goddamn tip I can give you, is that all the brands talk, all the orgs talk. And when I say that, I mean their community managers, their social managers, the people that work with creators, they all talk to each other. And if you are, I don't even know if I can swear, but if you are that beep word, they will talk and you will get blacklisted and you will not get work. Straight up. Yeah.
No, fair enough. I guess it can have, I guess, in some cases, a negative impact if you're overcommitting to the work and it's taking place of your everyday content, and that you're losing traction in where you're looking at growing. Mm-hmm. But I guess as long as you balance it right, it sounds like it pays itself out very well.
You are absolutely correct. It's a matter of what you want to prioritize. For years I was putting it out there that I want to cast and host. I started doing casting for World of Warcraft esports, Dungeon Dojo Invitational, stuff like that. And then I was hosting events at Fortress Melbourne. I was working behind the scenes there as a tournament administrator as well. So I was like in the scene. And then I was given an opportunity at PAX 2024, I think it was, or 2023. I think it was 23, where I hosted a panel. And then basically ever since then, for like 1.5, almost 2 years now, I've either hosted or been a part of panels and then hosted Red Bull events. And it snowballs from there once you get that first opportunity. So the first one arguably is the most important.
It's good. So shifting gears a little bit.
Yep.
What do you do to improve your content and improve everything that you do?
Yeah, so interestingly, my improvement of content, because I genuinely deem streaming and content creation to be two different things, right? So you can be a streamer and you can be a content creator.
That's interesting. I often think the same thing. And I know a lot of people will bucket them as the same, but I feel like streaming is actually, it's actually a part of the production of content creation. That's how I view it.
Yeah, they're not mutually exclusive. Absolutely agreed. But I still think they are distinctly unique. Streaming is, I'm going to turn OBS on, I'm going to stream, I'm going to talk to my community, and I'm going to turn my stream off maybe create a short or two and post that cross-platform it, right? That's streaming. Content creation can also be streaming, but content creation generally, in my opinion, is new, unique, original content that is posted on every platform except Twitch, right? Because you don't post to Twitch, you stream to Twitch.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. And so that's what, for me, a content creator is. And so when I'm trying to prioritize or improve on content creation, which is the question that you asked, it's about managing my priorities and deciding where I want to invest my time. So I did stream 4 days a week. I now only stream 2 days a week because I now dedicate 2 other days a week to content creation. And right now, because I'm new to the content creation side of things, where I'm creating on YouTube and TikTok and all that sort of stuff, I'm trying to find what works for me. So right now, my number one goal is to create at least one short form video every single day, or publish one short form every single day.
How are you finding that?
Because I'm batching it, and what I do every day is, so I'm working every day, even if I'm not doing the content creation. Every day I'm on socials and I'm bookmarking and I'm liking and I'm reposting things of interest, things that I want to talk about, things that I want to cover. And so when it comes to my batch content creation days, I've already got everything there that I want to cover.
Yep.
And so right now I'm actually averaging about 1.8 short form videos a day. And right now I'm kind of waiting for something to click to go, I liked doing that, I'm going to keep doing that. Because right now I'm yapping about WoW, LOL, Magic the Gathering, and I like yapping about all of them. But it's how I'm yapping about them that I want to focus on and improve.
Okay. So, because I guess one big tip that people often give, and I believe in it works, is niching into one particular very laser focused topic. Do you think you'll do that with one of those, or do you want to try and keep that broad but change the delivery, focus on delivery?
Here's where I'm shooting myself in the foot. I already know that. 4.5 years ago, when I first got started, I reached out to my marketing friend and I said, hey, give me the info, right? Marketing social specialist. And they said, niche down. One platform, one content, one niche. After 2 years, I was like, nah, not for me.
It's hard. It's so hard to do, because it's I mean, I do Baldur's Gate, and that's a game that's 2 years old now, and
so good.
It's great. I love the game. I could play it. I could keep playing it for ages, but there are so many other things that I want to play too. And so it's difficult.
I honestly dislike that people are right when they say you need to niche down, because and again, it's to my own detriment and it shoots myself in the foot. I do not want to, I cannot, and I am not niching down. I'm open. I talk about World of Warcraft and like League of Legends and Magic the Gathering and a whole bunch of other things like League of Legends esports, Riftbound and UTCG. They're like the top 5 things. And then I talk about politics on the side on my platforms, and it goes to hell.
So I would like to get your theory on this. And I know that you're not necessarily, you're still starting out on YouTube, for example. You have, let's just say, 4 primary things. So let's narrow it down to Magic the Gathering, WoW, and League. So would you make a channel for each topic?
I frankly think you should.
I
frankly think you should. Don't do what I'm doing and put it all on the one. Put them on individual.
If you consume any level of YouTube training content, you start getting into that, you'll quickly learn that they say niche down. You can make a channel get to 10,000 subscribers off one video, is what some people say. I believe that, because the video's just got to be absolutely amazing. And then if you do that 4 or 5 times in the one, so you can make a handful of videos across a whole year, do very well over 4 different channels, but you're not splitting your audience up. Do you reckon that? Sorry, go ahead.
No, I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. That is and should be the play to do, right? I couldn't agree with you more. If I put myself in the viewer's shoes, because I myself consume content, I follow a particular page for particular content. I want to curate my viewing or social media experience. And how do I do that? I go to those niched pages that only talk about that thing. So I know what I'm going to get. Like, you ever follow, person X and they talk about NASCARs, and then suddenly out of nowhere they talk about football, and you're like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. This
Right?
guy, I don't believe this guy when he talks about football.
Exactly. What does he know? He's a NASCAR fan. But, humans are multifaceted. We have so many interesting aspects to us, and we have so many interests. But
Hmm.
we're really interested in seeing the things we want to see, and that means
From
you
the
need to
people we like. I mean, so like,
yeah.
it's like when I've stopped playing League for now because it
Mm,
was consuming too much of my time. But
mm,
I have like there was like 2 channels that I would watch on like League training content,
yeah,
and I wouldn't even consider going anywhere else for like that kind of content from them,
yeah,
or like that kind of content. But I also wouldn't watch anything else that they produce because I only am interested in the League content because I know it's good.
yeah,
Like it, and they could produce, and this is the tricky thing, right? Say person A, I've got 2 channels, and one's like League of Legends and one's Baldur's Gate, and I have a
yeah,
content creator for each. But if they happen to switch, I wouldn't be happy about that. I would
yeah,
have I wouldn't watch their alternate content because I'm not used to it.
yeah. It's the person behind the content matters just as much as the content, in my opinion.
Mm. So that's an interesting one. So, but the tricky thing is about this, right? So I think it's great for like big topics, big level topics, and I think it will work if you're going to do League of Legends or Blizzard or Magic the Gathering because they're very like top level topics, and you can
Mm,
niche into like subcategories of them. For me, my content, for example, I'm doing Baldur's Gate,
mm,
and that's already quite niched in, right?
mm.
I can't just make another whole channel if I want to play a different game. So that's where it gets tricky. So it almost needs to be like RPG type games,
Yeah,
So it's something that I'm trying to work out.
you heard it here first. Witcher 3 playthrough coming soon.
Well, I'm trying to do Kingdom Come Deliverance.
Ah, nice.
Yeah, I've finished it already, and I'm trying to do a challenge playthrough of that, and
Ah.
it's performing a less than a tenth as well as the prime, like my Baldur's Gate stuff, and I'm just, although that's kind of what I expected, to be honest.
Do you think, though, Baldur's Gate 3 was like the second coming? It was like the Renaissance.
Mm,
It had and still has significant cultural impact.
yeah,
And when I say cultural impact, you jump onto any social media platform and you just search Baldur's Gate 3, and you will be flooded with Baldur's Gate 3 content
yeah,
to your heart's desire, even being created to this day, to this minute. But you search Kingdom Come Deliverance, I dare say you'll find 1/100th the content or
yeah.
impact.
I think Baldur's Gate. So I would say I would put Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 as almost as good as Baldur's Gate. Sometimes in some areas better than Baldur's Gate
Nice.
because the storytelling is really good, the gameplay is really good. It's a different game,
Mm,
and
mm,
Baldur's Gate is a better game overall.
mm,
And I think you're right in that Baldur's Gate and games like that just have an infinite pool of content
mm.
capabilities, whereas a game like Kingdom Come, and you could probably like there are certain games like Kingdom Come that it would be harder to make content for because you would eventually just run out of source material because
Yeah,
Baldur's Gate is just infinite. I actually thought about this when I was trying to think of content for Assassin's Creed Shadows. I got
yeah,
a code for that, and I was like, I don't know what to do for this game beside a playthrough
yeah,
because everything's hand fed to you. Like what? Who's going to watch me tell you where to find something that's already on the map?
yeah, 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 exactly.
You know? So
Yeah.
I guess that's an interesting thing, and this is very off topic. Well, kind of. Do you think the amount of content that can be produced from a game
Mm,
is equal to the success of the game, or
no.
like not equal, but like has some kind of relevance?
Does it have impact?
Yeah.
Yes. But does it determine the success of a game? No.
Mm,
So, as an example, obviously Baldur's Gate 3 has infinite content. Let's
yeah.
talk
So
about.
let's just use some examples of why I think this. Like the big games, Baldur's Gate, Infinite Pool,
Mhm.
Minecraft, Infinite Pool, Skyrim. Uh, so they're kind of like the 3 big ones. Skyrim's with the mod packs, like
Okay.
yeah, gets pretty crazy. You could even put Blizzard in there, like, because it's just always coming out with content.
I mean, World of Warcraft is 20 years strong.
Well, sorry, not Blizzard, World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
I shouldn't. People playing Overwatch are struggling at the moment.
Rip. Heroes of the Storm. What?
Yeah. So there are some examples in what I'm thinking. But what are your What are your thoughts there?
So I mean, obviously, you've just described 3 games that have very good longevity because they do have damn near infinite content. But infinite content doesn't mean quality of content either.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So obviously Skyrim, if you were to take Skyrim unmodded today and release it today, obviously the time differences, quality has deteriorated.
Yep.
But in the context of the time that it was the best game ever. It felt unending and it looked amazing and it played so well, right? But if you take a linear game, one that has a lot less going on for it, like you say, Assassin's Creed Shadow, I personally feel those games still have the potential to have a greater impact. It's just over a shorter time frame.
Mm-hmm.
So those kinds of games will win Game of the Year awards, no worries. But they won't win Game of the Decade or most cultural impactful games, stuff like that. But what you can do, but the really cool thing that I like about these games that you can play and you can turn into brand opportunities is when these games get announced and they start releasing teasers, you're genuinely excited, which is how I actually got to work with Bethesda over Starfield. I still have my collector's edition case up there. Is I just showed excitement. I was just like, holy crap, like a sci-fi game. This is so me. Like I have a Star Wars tattoo. I have Star Wars helmets and stuff. And I was like, this is so up my alley. I love it so much. I can't wait to play it. And I started creating content around it, right? Like you don't have to work with the brand to create content for and or around that brand. I was like, is this going to be the game of the year because of this, and this? And Bethesda saw all of this passion and excitement that I was investing into this game. And whether I got to work with them or not, I was going to buy that game and play it.
Yep.
And they were like, nah, we got to work with this dude. And so I went up to Sydney. I went to the VIP launch party. They sent me an influencer kit. And I genuinely still love Starfield. But I was also fortunate enough to live the dream and get paid to play that game simply because I was passionate about it.
Yep. That's fair. I mean, that's all it really comes down to, isn't it? Doesn't
it? Yeah.
Cool. All right, cool. Well, we're going to get into the tail end of tonight's session. So what are your top 5 pieces of advice you'd give to creators just starting out?
Yeah, okay. So I know I already touched on one a little earlier. I've already forgotten what that was, so I'm going to try and go through another 5. Critically, and I personally think this is first and foremost, your reputation matters so much. To tie it back into people talk, it's not just the brands and orgs that talk, it's other creators that talk. It's people in your immediate sphere. It's people that you'll never have met before. They talk. Your reputation precedes you in this industry. So do unto others as you would have them do unto you. If you want to be a character streamer, for example, put on a character when you are streaming and not be your true self. Make sure that character is how you want to be seen, because that's what brands will be working with, is your character, not you. You know what I mean? So, for example, one character trait of mine is I will never, ever break an NDA. Come hell or high water, NDAs, embargoes, I will never, ever break one. I've worked under embargoes and NDAs for longer than I care to tell you. I know things about motorcycles coming into this country 5+ years away, and I'm never telling you because it's an NDA and I respect those. And brands that I work with know that's how I feel about those. And so they trust working with me. I have trust with these brands. So your reputation matters. Second point, whilst numbers aren't everything, and you will hear creators say this 1,000,001 times, don't focus on the numbers. Numbers aren't everything. They still matter.
Yep.
Right? Yes, they're right. They're not everything, but they're still enough that they matter.
Yeah, I guess everything's very broad, but they still are something.
Yeah, they still are something. to be proud of. They
Yeah.
are still goals to set for yourself and to work toward and achieve.
You know, to your point, whenever you hear the saying like numbers aren't everything and people disregard it and don't focus on the numbers and stuff like that, if you take that too seriously, as you said,
Mm.
you rob yourself the opportunity to actually be proud of what you've achieved.
Yep.
Because it doesn't feel like enough no matter
Yep.
what you do. Like, you'll hit 1,000 followers or 1,000 subscribers wherever you are, and you're like, numbers don't mean anything. So you've just kind of robbed yourself of that achievement. You've done more
Exactly.
than what 99% of people on YouTube have accomplished, and you've
Yep.
just robbed yourself out of it because you've followed the advice of someone.
If
I think that the point is to not get obsessed on it.
Exactly. And especially in contextual relevance. And when I say contextual relevance, right, we're all content creators. Stop comparing yourself to other content creators.
Mm.
Unless you're attacking cardboard and you use their numbers as spite, which fuels your content, don't compare yourself to other creators. All right. Like he will get up on a panel and he will say that he uses spite as fuel to create content. That's not slander. That's his method. You should get him on and ask him that. But genuinely, numbers aren't everything, especially in contextual relevance to other content creators. They're on their journey, you're on yours. Maybe set their numbers as goals, but do not be disappointed or do not be scared to approach brands just because your numbers are smaller than someone else's.
Mm.
It's about the quality of work, and yeah, a little bit is quantity, but it's not all quantity.
Yep.
This next tip we've actually already touched on is creating content as if you're already a creator for them.
Yep.
Right? Like you don't have to be working with a brand to create content around and or for that brand. And no, don't be like, oh, but it's free work for them. No, it's not free work for them because they're not using it on their platforms. They're not sharing it on their platforms. There was a great example recently that I'm aware of, and I'm not going to name names, but basically someone created an excellent product image for brand. And then brand retweeted and reshared that and then got basically lynched because they used it without consent from that creator, right? If that was their work, then that would have been okay. But it's not. It's you and your work and your passion that they just used for free.
Mm-hmm.
There's another brand out there. There was high quality work and they reached out to the creator first and said, hey, we love your work. We'd love to use that on our platforms. We're happy to pay you.
Yep.
And the creator went, no worries. And
Yep.
then that brand used that content, promoted, tagged the creator, the works.
So just kind of like rewind a little bit. So to that post, did they retweet it or share it, or did they take it and then reuse it?
Was a take. It was a take. That example.
Yeah, because I feel like if it was retweet or reshare, that would be a little bit different.
It's cool when you get recognized by brands like that.
Yeah,
but when they take your stuff,
if they've taken it and then reused it, that's
pretty dog.
That's dog.
Yeah. What else? Creators are starting out want to work with brands. We've covered connect with all the community social media managers. I dare say like going to events is important.
Yeah.
Right. So as much as we're nerds, as much as, some of us start streaming in COVID and we're introverts, it is important to go to events, not only to connect with brands and orgs, but your fellow creators.
Yeah.
Your fellow creators can be your greatest competition, but they can also be your best assets, your best allies, your best tools as well. And I know that sounds very capitalist, but you learn a lot from one another, and it is a reciprocal relationship. Again,
I think that's just how humans are. It's not really to put the title capitalist on it is kind of, it's very broad. It's not the best term for it, but humans learn from each other, and we always have, and we always should.
Exactly. And being at events, you learn from one another. You have the simplest of conversation. It's like, that's a great photo. How did you take that? And you go, oh, well, this setting on my phone. And just
actually,
like
so this kind of comes back to a quote, and I just quoted this in the creator dashboard. I don't know if you looked at the announcement or that I put in there, but basically, it's from the Mufasa movie. It's the song that Rafiki sings in it. It's like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Yeah.
And I was just like I keep hearing that in my mind. I'm like, you don't need to do this alone.
Yeah.
if you're going to events, or just in general, like you've joined in these communities, you can learn from each other, and that's how you will go further.
Absolutely. And yeah, again, do unto others, you just have them do unto you, right? So, like, if you treat people like trash, you will be treated like trash. If you treat people with respect and empathy, you will get that in kind. More often than not. Obviously, there are exceptions to those rules, but if you do your best and you put your best foot forward, you will most likely receive that in return.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much to say. Like, top 5 tips almost feels like it's even too few. But I have run out.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's all right. You've shared quite a lot tonight. We've got your full stepped process into how to approach a brand and work with them, which is, I think, fantastic and very valuable for a lot of people, because it's just like myself. I sit here and I talk to people all the time, and I still haven't really gotten the balls to talk to many brands.
On that note, right, I'm going to disappear for a second and I'm going to return. So, a pitch I made recently. So, as I said, I've been working with ROG for some time. A pitch I made recently was for ROG LIX. Okay. And this is not to be like, aha, look at this. This is to lead into an example of work that I did to get product that I genuinely wanted, right? So, I've secured brand work before. We've established value over time. All right. So, as most jobs, you get paid per hour. Brand work, you get paid X for Y, which is value over time. And I said, hey, I shot my shot. Normally they come to me and say, hey, we've got these little gigs. Do you want to do these? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. But then I shot my shot and I said, hey, I want that. What can I do for that? And so they put me onto the right people and we started talking. And I literally wrote a 2-page document, a pitch saying, who I am, the work that I've been doing, that my reputation is built on trust, etc. The product that I would like to do work for, and at what price I value my work, my value over time, and all the deliverables I'm offering in exchange for this product. And this person came back to me and said, this is the best pitch I've ever received. It's so well detailed. It understands the value over time for everything being delivered and wanted. She approved it immediately on the spot. And I think that's something that a lot of us are missing. I work supply chain all day, every day. I know how to negotiate. I know how to pitch for product and in return review quotes, etc. And I feel like that's something we all need to get better at and be aware of.
Yep.
So if anyone has any questions, I'm more than happy to talk about that even more. I've even literally shared, minus private details, that email with other creators, and they've then gone and pitched successfully themselves as well.
Yeah. Well, I guess to an extent, like, we are all running our own businesses, and part of business is knowing how to sell. And even though you're not selling, well, I mean, technically, if you're doing work for brands, you're actually selling their product. You're more effective. You're more or less a salesperson for yourself, and you need to be able to sell yourself to the brand.
Yep.
So yeah, I think it's a very good skill, and it might be something that I need to cover on the dashboard. I'm actually, like, sales is my background, and that's where I come from. So it's probably something I could provide some value in as well.
Yeah. Think about it.
I will. Anyway, Logan, it's been fantastic having you here tonight. One final question.
Yeah.
What's one thing that you want to improve on?
That is very open. Like, is that in the content creator space?
In the content creator space. Oh, I mean, it could be anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the content creator space, but
what's something I want to improve on? I'll stick to the content creator space. Frankly, I want to improve on my mental health. And when I say my mental health, it's because I do pay a little bit of attention to my numbers. And I do question what I am doing or what I could do differently to change how the numbers are going. Because it's such a social game, being a streamer, sometimes you are left wondering, why are things happening the way that they are? Like, and I feel like that's a very relatable thing, right? Everyone has self-doubt, and everyone goes, well, how can I improve? And everyone goes, well, I don't even know where to begin to learn how to improve.
Mm.
And it's that self-doubt that eats away at me, and that's the mental health aspect that I would want to improve on in content creation. I guess I would love that knowledge, basically, to quieten that voice.
I like it.
Yeah.
Have you made any steps into that?
Mate, I'm as stubborn as they come. I'm ex-military. I'm male. I was raised by a very traditional man who said, if you cry, it's weak, all this sort of stuff. And I know that's wrong. I do not conform to that belief myself.
Yep.
But unfortunately, that is the way that I was
kind
raised.
Of ingrained a little bit.
Yeah. And so I struggle to show emotions, very much so. And I am still a very, very traditionally stubborn man when it comes to seeking help for myself. I
think the fact that you're able to voice that is already a big first step in the right direction. Like as a male, similar kind of thing, you being able to voice it, even just talk about it on camera. It's actually a big first step in the right direction. So I think you'll get there.
Eventually. I mean, I've been at this first step for years now. When's the next one coming?
Awesome, Logan. It's been a pleasure having you here, having you on tonight. And for anyone who's watching, if you want to check out Logan's socials, I'll put the links in the description below. If you've enjoyed this episode so far, well, if you've enjoyed this episode, we're at the end now.
At all.
Give the video a thumbs up. And if you want to learn more about content creation, you want to become a better content creator, subscribe to the Creator Dashboard. There's a link in the description to the Discord, which is brand new. And, we're just going to help each other grow. So I hope to see you there. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.